Hello, both sides of the conversation family. We welcome you to this virtual space crafted especially for you. My name is Jada Curry, and I'm both sides of the conversation's marketing director and graphics design specialist. I want to take some time to ground us all as a community into this space we are about to open up in, so let's go through our community standards. Both sides of the conversation is providing a safe and honest space for open conversation, so we ask that you all be respectful of that. We also ask that you be respectful of each panelist, host, and participant. We do encourage healthy debates and conversations. Don't personalize anything with anyone. This includes name-calling, bullying, trolling, or shaming. This will not be allowed or tolerated. Your perspective is yours. It is not a prescription. You do not have to agree, but show respect. These community standards apply to all of our live shows and any virtual spaces that we hold on social media, including YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. We want to make sure that we are caring for each other as a community. This is our priority in all of our endeavors as both sides of the conversation. With that being said, I hope you enjoyed today's show and continue to stay in touch with us via YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or all of them. All right, thank you for listening and see you soon.
Welcome, everybody, to Both Sides of the Conversation. I'm John Henry, Executive Director. Today is Tuesday, so you know what that means. Another segment of Hidden Gems where we highlight our Black and brown businesses and we highlight individuals in our community that are doing things to positively impact our community. We have three phenomenal sisters on here today that are doing the work, have phenomenal organizations that are really impacting some of the things that we need in our community to continue to address. So we'll be bringing them up shortly. With that being said, we'll just go through our announcements today. One, it's been a violent weekend across this country. We definitely still have work to do, community. We have to do these community events, keep engaging our young people. We're asking for the people in the Bay Area for ceasefires. A number of organizations are coming together. We're going to keep trying to figure out a way to end this gun violence in our community, work with some of our young people, deal with the traumas and the mental health. And we're just going to keep trying to do the things that support our communities. With that being said, I want to just give a follow-up to this weekend. Shout out to all of the fathers. It was a phenomenal Father's Day weekend. Loving to see all of the dads out in the community with their kids, enjoying the time with their children. Thought it was just phenomenal to see all of the dads out there. And then we had our Juneteenth celebration. It was an epic week. We got the president to sign off to get Juneteenth recognized as a national holiday. About time. I know we've been celebrating it, forever, but it's about time America catches up. And then I want to give a great shout out to our president at UC, the UC system, President Drake. What a way to honor it. I know some people was able to get the day off. Some people were not, due to the time that it was signed right before Juneteenth. But the UC president put out to all the UC campuses that next Monday, the 28th, they will honor the Juneteenth holiday. And then next year, it'll be honored on the actual day that it's supposed to. So kudos to them. Sometimes UC, we think sometimes slow to keep up. But definitely with the new President Drake, as you guys can see, changes happening. They're doing a phenomenal job when it comes to equity and diversity. So it seems like some things are happening. Change is starting to move forward. So I'm just happy to see that. And a number of other organizations also are acknowledging the Juneteenth holiday and going to be letting their workers off as well. So little progress, little steps. We're getting there. Just excited to see that. But just want to give a good shout out to the Mega Black family. This weekend, they kicked off with the Juneteenth celebrations at the waterfront. What a phenomenal event. A lot of people engaged. That's what real equity looked like. I mean, for a lot of people who didn't understand why that was down there, at the ferry building, at the port, the farmers market, a lot of the Black vendors haven't been always allowed to get access to set up down there. So it was just phenomenal, the work that Shakira simply over at Mega Black, Dr. Director Stroh Davis, and the team over there at Mega Black, getting the community out there, getting our Black vendors in there to get some of that economic co-empowerment from the tourism. So that was just cool. And hopefully moving forward, with the mayor showing up and different conversations happen, we can start having a little bit more of our Black vendors out there at the farmers market and at the ferry building, just to help get some of that economical power that's needed to build up these businesses. And then we had moved along up to the Juneteenth celebration in the Fillmore. What a phenomenal job the Fillmore did. Have to give a big shout out to the Fillmore Collaborative. Last minute, everybody was doing things at the last minute, putting together. I know it was 3 different locations. A lot of people was kind of upset about that, but what a great job. I want to give a shout out to Pia, Erica Scott over at the African American Cultural Center, Rico Hamilton, Suge Smith, a number of the Fillmore leaders over there putting it together. I know it was at 3 locations, but it was phenomenal. We had no dramas, no incidents. Shout out to Sugar T, Fillmore Slim. A lot of the OG legends was out there having a good time. And want to give a big shout out to Liz Jackson and the Success Center for all of their folks out there doing job readiness workshops, hiring people on the stop. They had about 40 employers out there hiring people on the spot, and also connecting with community to give jobs. So that was just a phenomenal event. So shout out to the Success Center and the work they were doing. Black to the Future was out there. A lot of the community organizations was out in the community, blessing the people with information and connect the community. And that's what it was really all about, to celebrate, but also to educate people about Juneteenth. And then finally, the last Juneteenth celebration at Gilman Park. Want to give a huge shout out to SF Black Wall Street, to the team over there, and to Auntie April Spears. What a phenomenal job they did at Gilman Park. Again, no violence, no drama. The police that were out there were engaged with the community. No issues, no hassles. They did a great job. All in entertainment, all of the Black vendors that showed up, all of the young people, the fathers, just having fun. It was just a good day to just be out there. The weather held up. It was pretty nice. The mayor came through. Our president from District 10 was out there, a number of elected officials. So just happy to see the community out and could get together, engage. So please don't tell me that Black folks can't get together and enjoy themselves. And it was alcohol out there and people held themselves. And then, sadly, we had the next day continued violence in our community. But we got through the weekend, still got work to do for the community, but just positive events. And I know the lake had a bunch of events. I know we had one shooting. Somebody lost their life over there. Sorry to hear that. But from what I've been receiving from the other events in Hayward, Antioch, the Vallejo Fairgrounds, all of the Juneteenth events were successful, positive. So that was just a blessing to hear. And the little hiccups that we have, we just got to keep pushing on as community. Some people don't get it, but if we continue to educate and support these people of our community, hopefully we'll start making that stride. And then lastly, our upcoming shows this Thursday, we have a sister coming on, Lamitra Edwards, that's going to bless the community and talk about life insurance and different insurances to protect our families. Very important information. So if you're available this Thursday, please check in for our Educational Thursday. Some great information for community. And then this Sunday, we're going to have our conversation about reparations for the Black community. This is going to be a powerful conversation. It's going to be intense. I can tell you guys, it's going to be intense. It's going to be real. It's going to be passionate. I'm already planning that we're going to go over. I know our show typically runs 2 to 4, but just the people that we have on there, I know the passion and energy that they bring. It's going to be some good stuff. So hope everybody could join in and be a part of this and drop your gems in the chat. We have a full panelist. So you guys know when we get a full panelist, it's hard to facilitate those in a timely manner. So we'll go over a little bit. Want to put that out there before we get started. With that being said, I'm going to close my mouth now and get everybody to our hidden gems tonight because that's what everybody's watching to see. We have a phenomenal sister coming all the way from Mississippi, to come join us here at Both Sides of Conversation. For people that just always want to say both sides of conversation, only highlight San Francisco and the Bay Area. Just want y'all to know we are reaching people all across this country. We are connecting our people. We've had people from Philadelphia, Atlanta, Detroit, Florida. So don't tell me we just a San Francisco entity. We have people all across this United States of America in London, because we did receive some information from somebody in London that's watching this. So shout out to everybody in the UK. We do have people following us, so that's cool. But tonight we're going to introduce Cynetra Freeman. She's the founder of the Mississippi Reentry. She saw the need to improve the quality of life for the limited resources offered to justice involved individuals in the state of Mississippi. We're going to bring her up here and talk about the work she's doing, how she's impacting the community, and maybe some of the tools and the techniques that they're using in Mississippi. We could use some of those out here to help our people with reentry. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and bring up our sister, Cynetra Freeman. Hello, good
Hello,
sister.
how are you?
All right, all right.
Yeah, my name is Cynetra Freeman. I am located here in South Haven, Mississippi. I am the founder and CEO of Mississippi Center for Reentry. I started this organization in April of 2017. We are a 501c3 nonprofit organization. We received our 501c3 nonprofit status June of 2017. And just a few things that we do. We do in jail work readiness training every 6 weeks. We do a mail-based training right now because of COVID to those who are currently in prison. But once everyone in prison gets their vaccinations, then we will be able to go down there and continue our in prison instruction. We do financial education and banking. We do a number of educational things, not only inside the jail and prison, but here in our community, just to bring reentry awareness to our community. We also do Angel Tree, where we provide Christmas gifts to the children of those who are currently incarcerated. We do that every year in December. Great time. We've served so far this year up to 100 individuals, and we're just like midway. So we still have more individuals that we are going to reach. We do an annual Reentry Impact Summit that is done in August of every year. Um, yeah, so I'm just excited for the work that we're doing. We might be a small organization, but definitely having a great big impact here in Northwest Mississippi.
Wow, phenomenal, phenomenal stuff. So I know earlier I was talking to you about this reentry work, and in California, we have a large prison population in the Black and Brown community. We're a little bit more diverse than Mississippi. But what are you seeing as far as the numbers? Before COVID, till COVID, is the number of incarceration rates higher now because of COVID, or during the COVID? Or are you seeing just the kind of the standard trends of the numbers coming in and out? I do a lot of work in these jails. I understand, like, different times how the movement happened, different parts of the year. So what are you seeing on those? Is it more now since COVID? Because we know during COVID, the Black and Brown community was hit the hardest when it comes to layoffs, unemployment, and financial resources. Have you seen an increase of incarceration, or has the numbers kind of flatlined or been the same?
At the jails, there has been definitely been an increase in the incarceration, but at the prisons, unfortunately, we lost a lot of our brothers down there due to COVID because they did not have a good handle on COVID. But now they're starting to get the vaccine down there, so they just recently started that. But yeah, so we definitely seen an increase at the jail.
Wow, phenomenal. And I know you talked earlier that one thing that you touched on, you said that there's been an increase in incarceration when it comes to women in the community. Do you have any information on what is that looking like? Is it just petty crimes, or is it serious offenses? Because I've been watching these numbers, and it seems like the young women in the community are really starting to get involved in criminal activity. What are you guys seeing down there in Mississippi?
Mainly drug related. There has been some heavy offenses like um, murder. We haven't seen anything dealing with like sexual abuse or anything, but it's either going to be mainly a drug offense, whether they were using, whether they were selling, whatever had happened. And I've seen a couple that dealt with murder.
Wow, yeah. So one of the things I want to ask, because I always ask this, when you talked about drugs, and how is the state dealing with, 30 of the 50 states has legalized cannabis, in a lot of these states it's being legalized, but we know in some parts of the South that the Black and Brown community has been hit the hardest when it comes to cannabis. Is there any change? Do you see any legislative stuff that's pushing forward, or is it still the same old down there in Mississippi?
It's funny that you asked that because this session they actually passed a to legalize marijuana here. But what happened is about 2 months ago, legislation came back behind the members who voted because it was on a ballot initiative. And just to do a quick overview of ballot initiative, basically what happens is advocates in the community was able to get this item placed on the ballot. They didn't go through legislation. And what happened is Mississippi voters voted for this to go into law. Okay, now let's go back to 2 months ago. Legislation went behind these voters and said, no, we're not going to do that. So now it's a real big uphill down there at the Capitol because, the advocates are saying um, the Mississippi voters voted this into law, and now you guys are trying to take that away from us. So there's a big fight right now on that.
Wow. Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. I was reading some articles and I was talking to some people and they was talking about the over sentencing with cannabis and how that's impacted some of the South states. And that's why I wanted to ask that because it's kind of unfair. And I've been talking to people, if you have 30 of the 50 states, legalizing it, and then we have places like Mississippi and different parts in Georgia, and they're over penalizing people when there's billionaires and corporations making millions and millions of dollars in certain states. When do we have that real conversation at a federal level to deal with it? And again, I'm not here to advocate for it, but I just know that our Black and brown community has been impacted heavily when it comes to sentencing and how they've been treated when it comes to being, caught with small portions and the time that they were given for minor amounts that in most states would be considered minor amounts, long-term sentencing. And I know that impacts to the justice system. So, man, just great information. But I wanted to ask you from your perspective, because I know you're getting it glimpse eye, and I understand once this pandemic kind of lift up and they get the vaccinations down there, what are some of your thoughts thinking, how do we curb, this mass incarceration that you're talking about, and how do your program helps, change this narrative with this mass incarceration?
Definitely making sure that each individual have access to reentry services. I'm in a state where reentry services it's very limited. That was one of the reasons why I started this organization, and then plus I am my population. Just a little backstory: I was incarcerated in 2010, but I fought my case, meaning that I became my own attorney and I won. So when I got released, because it was plastered all over the news, it was all over. I was treated as if I had a convicted felon because on a job application I had to tell them that yes I was arrested. But to bring that back to, we need to provide more reentry services to these individuals. Mental health is at an all-time high for those people, especially if they're doing long-term bids, 30, 40, 50 years. Can you just imagine someone that long and then they finally get free? They don't know what to do. They need direction, they need help, and mental health is very, very high. I see that with my people that come out. The drug and alcohol, we need to make sure that is available to them, even if they feel like they don't have that as an issue. It's evident they do, because they're trying to cope with from being from institutionalized and being thrown out into the public and not really having no real sense of where they're going. Definitely, I would say reentry services and making sure that these individuals have the services that they need so they won't revert back to whatever crime that caused them to go to jail or prison.
Wow, great, very powerful stuff. Glad to have you boots on the ground. In that realm, I do a lot of work here in San Francisco with our young people locked up, and that reentry is very important. But also, we want to advocate as well for some of these programs before these young males and young females in the community get involved in the criminal system, especially with the young males. And what I'm finding is there's a big investment when it comes to reentry for young Black males. But when it comes to the help and support before then, it's not a lot. So I'm really out here advocating to make sure that our young males get that support before they get into the criminal system, because we all know once you get in that system, it's hard to get out. And a lot of people are not looking at it. And, I got to keep advocating and fighting for our young fathers as well. Because here in the Bay Area, there's a lot of services. I'm in a lot of these meetings. And again, they have all the programs, all the support needed for our young women. And not saying that the young women don't need it. But when we start talking about what our young fathers need with the young males of the community, and those are typically the ones who are doing the crime, doing the shootings, there's not a lot of support services. So again, I'm out there definitely advocating to make sure that we get those services as well to the people in the community before they get into that system, because we know once you get in there, that's like a tornado. It's hard to get out. But that reentry work is definitely important. I'm happy to know that you down there doing that work. I've met a couple of people in Louisiana that's doing some of the similar work, and they tell me, man, it is a trouble to get funding and support. So definitely just happy and to hear that you out there doing that work. And to the people in the audience watching, get behind this sister, support her. If y'all out in that area, she's a nonprofit, all the support, because it's going to the people that need it. And I agree with you. Sometimes these brothers come home 10, 15, 20 years and they've been locked up trying to adjust. Back in the normal society is a challenge, and some people don't understand that. I mean, just from Arden and, day to day with all the change that we have from the time they went in with cryptocurrency and debit and credit cards. I mean, I had a brother that we was working with, didn't even know how to use a debit card, couldn't even figure out how to go in the bank, and then trying to find Social Security information. It's a challenge. So for the people out there that don't know about this reentry work, it's definitely a lot. There's a lot more support that's needed. Especially when we're trying to acclimate these people back into our community. Very important to have those type of services. So I just want to say thank you and appreciate the work you're doing. We're going to continue to blast your information. Anything that we could do for you here at Both Sides of the Conversation. If you have a fundraising event or any kind of digital flyers that you want to get out to the community, please get them over to us. We have a following down there. There's a number of people that watch us and follow us down in that area, so we can make sure that you connected and get the support. But if you have any last questions, any words you want to say, you can go ahead and do it now before we bring up the next hidden gem.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, no problem. Thank you for all the work you're doing. We call it the Hidden Gem segment. After tonight, you're not so hidden. People all across the world gonna be knowing who you are. So just happy to have you. Continue blessing, sister. Thank you for doing the work. Don't give up. I know it's hard work. I know the tired, long nights, and a lot of times you don't get appreciated for that work. And a lot of times people say, why are you working with those people locked up? They don't care anyway. But it's really a lot of people who made bad decisions or got put in positions that they didn't necessarily want to be. So I just commend you. Keep fighting. I know this work, it can get daunting, and that's why we had you here tonight, to highlight you and celebrate you and let you know that we appreciate the work that you're doing for our people. Freedom fighters, another Harriet Tubman on this program, trying to help the people. All right, so I'll see you if you can hang around. If you have to go, we understand. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll be definitely looking out to support you.
Thank you.
All right. With that being said, we're going to go ahead and jump in to our next hidden gem for tonight. This sister here is a phenomenal sister here in the city, doing great work, the work that we need to happen, because we know, we just talked about the mental health and some of the health issues that we are impacted here in the Bay Area is very, very important and needed in our community. So I want to introduce tonight Brittney Doyle. She is the founder of Wise Health, a San Francisco public health consulting company that develops innovative community engagement models to advance health equity in our underdeserved communities. She is currently serves as the Western District Governor for the National Association of Negro Business and Professional Women, and she's a proud member of the AKA. The AKAs is doing a lot around this country, so we're happy to have Sister Brittney come on tonight to talk to the community about the things she's doing to positively impact our community.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me. Again, my name is Brittney Doyle. I'm the founder of Wise Health. It is a public health consulting company located here in San Francisco, California. We've been around for a little over 5 years. We focus on developing innovative community health programs to reach underserved populations. When we first started out, we had a specific focus on underserved, socially isolated seniors living in senior housing sites. So we would go out to senior housing sites and do programs to get them out of their apartments, to come downstairs, since a lot of our seniors weren't getting out, getting access to healthy foods or access to health services, we would conduct these healthy pop-ups in senior housing sites and bring all of the services to them. So all they would have to do is come downstairs. Since 2016, my business has grown. So we not only serve seniors, but we serve, family housing sites, community centers, senior centers. We do street outreach, street fairs. We work with universities. We have expanded all across the Bay Area. We do a lot more consulting work now since COVID hit. We had to pivot our business model. Last year, we developed a food distribution program called Made with Love, and we will go out and deliver healthy organic food kits to isolated seniors across the entire city. We did that for 6 months until the city was able to keep up and start serving all the seniors. And once we started going to our seniors' doors and seeing other food delivery people, we would get to the door and it'd be like 2-3 other people. We decided that it was time to stop the business and pivot and do something else. And so now we focus on consulting services. We work with universities that are trying to reach African American communities to increase their services, to increase their programs in health services. And so we work with them to come up with innovative strategies to get out into the community and build that relationship and build the mistrust that's taking place between the Black community and the medical community. So right now we're focusing on advancing health equity. We're focusing on educating communities around HIV prevention, healthy foods, engaging in their own health services. Basically, we just want to build the capacity of the community so that they can now start taking care of their health. As we're getting out of COVID and going back to what we consider normal life, even though nothing is normal anymore, we just want to make sure that our community has the tools and the resources necessary to live a healthy lifestyle, to connect to their medical service providers, to have access to technology and the education and resources that we need. And so that's what basically Wise Health does. We're here for the community. We have some grants coming out in the next couple of days. We're looking to increase advanced care planning throughout District 10. We also have a program with UCSF that actually premiered at Juneteenth this past Sunday called Healthy Streets, the Black Health Initiative. We were out at Gilman Park, and so you'll be seeing us doing more healthy pop-ups around the city, providing health services through UCSF directly to the community. And we also will be providing some HIV education workshops starting next Tuesday. We actually have a community challenge that we have going on right now where we're looking to bring community members from all around the city that are invested in African American health. We want to bring people together to start that conversation on how we can address HIV in the Black community. So if you go to my Instagram page, which is basically Wise Health SF, you can sign up for one of our workshops and you can learn more about what we do with Wise Health. Thank you again for having us this evening.
Wow, phenomenal, great information, Brittney, for the community. And I think you, Vanessa, you all in a major area that's impacting our community. But when we talk about health, especially growing up in San Francisco, especially living in D10, the health effects has been tremendous. And I think sometimes people turn their back on how bad the environment is in our district. So it's just very, phenomenal to have you and the organization out doing what you're doing, connecting with UCSF. They are doing a little bit more in the community when it comes to health. But, you hit on something. And I know you, as you started this and you started to see the change during COVID, how real was the disparities? Because I hear people when they talk about the health disparities in the Black community, sometimes they try to make it seem like it's not that real, like, oh, it's not that bad. But given the work that you're doing in the health network, when the pandemic hit, as you started finding out the numbers and things were happening, how bad was it? Was it bad as people said it was, or was it not as bad?
Well, that health disparities were already bad in District 10 going into COVID. Like African Americans, and I'm only speaking about African Americans because I only deal with all things Black health, the end. So, our people weren't going to the doctors. There's already a food desert in District 10. So, that the lack of access was already present. So when we went into COVID, it just basically magnified everything that was already there. So the first thing that we knew is that people were not going to have access to food because people were scared to leave the house, especially our seniors. So the first thing we had to do was make sure that people have food. But not only did we want to make sure they have food, for me, I wanted to make sure that our people had organic, healthy food. So we were like giving out recipes, telling people how to make spa water, teaching people how to be creative with their food. Then there was the issue of not having access to medical care. People were already not going to the doctor. So now you have to log on to Zoom and, you have to have access to technology to get to the doctors. So that just, brought light to a whole issue around how we don't have access to adequate technology in our communities. And so just with that, then you think about social isolation and the impact that social isolation has on somebody that's already healthy. So imagine already being depressed or having mental illness or substance abuse or heart disease and not being able to get out and exercise, and now you're in the house, everything increases. Depression, sky high. Substance abuse, sky high. People having unprotected sex, STD, sky high. Is going down in everybody's house. Everything was sky high. I can't really speak about our COVID rates because everybody knows about the COVID rates, but the coexisting conditions that were already in place, absolutely, we brought light to everything. And so now I feel like as we're coming out of COVID, San Francisco, I feel like, is now under new leadership. I mean, it's a whole new, array of people that's running the city now. I feel like running the communities. And so, programs are coming out now. And I think that we're now going through a healing process where collectively, we saw what took place last year. So collectively, we're now all coming up with our own resources, our own abilities, our own skills, and we're doing what we have to do to make sure our community is right. And, and that's where we are right now. So back to your question about the disparities. I could go on a tangent. Don't get me started about talking about public health, and I'll talk all night. But, when we get back to disparities, yeah, it was already there. We see it for what it is, and now we're doing what we have to do to address it.
Well, I'm glad that you're on here, and I'm glad you spoke about that because, that's one of my pet peeves is this mental health and advocating for mental health. And I'm still going to continue to go after DPH. I think they got to do a better job when it comes to the mental health and wellness in the Black community. I think there's a lot more that they could be doing or should be doing for our community that's not happening. But kudos to you and the work that you're doing with UCSF. And I think one of the other things that I definitely want to hit on, because I think we should have a conversation. We should set up a Sunday conversation talking about the STD rates and some of the HIV rates. We need to have a conversation because typically in our Black and brown community, when we start talking about those type of issues, those conversations are not happening, right? We know in our community when we talk about mental health and finances, it's like taboo. Nobody wants to talk about it. But I think that's a conversation that we definitely, I want to, work with you and have a conversation. Maybe we could get some of the health providers to come on as well, because I think that's an talked about conversation that is really impacting our community, and a lot of it ties with the drugs and the substance abuse. We all know here in San Francisco there's a high substance abuse when it comes to opiate and heroin, and people using needles and injections, different things of that nature, passing disease around the community. I think that's a very good conversation that we need to have moving forward. So I definitely want to connect with you with that, and maybe you could get some of the people from UCSF to do kind of an educational Thursday and put a presentation together for community, because I think this is very important in our community, especially the mental health part. Like we talked about earlier as I kicked off the show about the violence and the food desert that you're talking about, because I truly believe a lot of the food issues, the water, and just breathing the air from this environment is causing some of this mental health issues. And I know there's some reports that lead to it. Some people think no, but I think the food part is very, very important. You look at the obesity rates in our community. You look at the health, like you said, diabetes is taking out our people left and right. There's colon cancer and things of that nature. So health is very, very important, but I think it starts with the food. And I think you hit on that. And I think how do we do that? From your perspective, since you're kind of involved, how do we really advocate? Because I'm tired of driving up and down 3rd Street, see all the liquor stores. Again, you go in the liquor store, there's nothing healthy in there. How do we advocate? I know we got new leadership. We got Mayor Breed, we got Shaman. president of the board. We got some community leaders that are trying to do stuff, but how do we properly advocate to get these liquor stores out of our community, get these fast food restaurants out of our community? I mean, it is a shame. Every Black community that you go to, there's a chicken, there's a Popeyes, there's a Church's, there's a Burger King, there's a McDonald's, there's a Taco Bell. I mean, all this stuff that's bad, pumped up with steroids and different things, you can find that. But I know one of the problems that we're having in our community is the cost of eating healthy. Right? You go to Whole Foods, you get healthy meals, you spend $200 and get 5 items, right? And in our community, we are impacted financially. So how do we advocate for that? And how do we get those healthy foods in our community? And I know it starts with education, but from your perspective, how do we fix this and how do we advocate so that we can get better food in our community?
Well, when it comes to like advocating with government, I'm not too savvy around that. I just know about like empowering community. I believe in like economic empowerment. I believe that, our community should pool our monies together to develop like grocery store co-ops and bring our own foods. Last year, I had to seek out like Black farmers and, brown farmers that can help me get the organic foods to the community. So it takes like resources, research, pulling together, having people together with you that are committed to the cause, having a support network, being able to pull together resources. I would think that, just having a support team and just, seeking out the resources is the best way to go. But I'm all about economic empowerment. So if there's any way for people to pull together money to start bringing, the food to the community ourselves and not having to depend on like the food bank and, all those free food drops that we really don't have access to, even though it's in the community, it really is not that accessible when the lines be like 7 blocks long and they don't be of us, So, you have to think about like, what other ways can we work together to, empower our community to bring food. So, those are conversations that we have to start and stop having depend on like, rotten foods, being provided rotten foods and, working together to get us the healthy foods that we deserve.
And I'm right there with you. I'm glad you said that. I'm all about economical empowerment, economics, but it starts with solidarity, working together in the community. We definitely have to do that, and we got to do this. I mean, it is horrible. And just for you to mention that, I've been screaming and yelling. These lines are way too long. And where's our people at? And I'm tired of people talking about our people are prideful. They don't want to stand in the lines. I think we have to do a better job as community organizers, community organizations, and our leadership to really look into what's going on. Because I tell them all the time, I go to all of these pantry drives, I'm doing homeless feeds, and our people ain't there. And don't tell me that our people in the community ain't starving and ain't having issues. So we got to figure out, especially in our disability community, our elders in the community, they need that support. And we got to figure out how we can get some of these young people engaged, moving the food up to these people, bringing it to their doorstep, whatever we have to do. Definitely, I want to work collectively with any organizations that's trying to do that, because don't tell me my people ain't in need up there. I know I'm on the hill. And I don't want to keep hearing this. Our people are prideful. They don't want to ask for help. We just have to be strategic in our planning and our purpose and making sure that we support our people, because I know there's a need for that in our community. So thank you for highlighting that. This financial equity is very important. And that's why this Sunday, this conversation about reparation is real. We know we have a reparation task force here in San Francisco. Across this country, people are starting to put these task force together, and hopefully we'll be a good leader for the rest of the country to see what that looks like. But these are the conversations that need to have when we talk about reparation and what does it really look like to really impact our community. But legislatively, we're going to keep fighting. I'm going to keep pushing Shaman every day. We got to get these liquor stores out of our community. But again, the economical empowerment is important. And that's why I say financial literacy and home ownership and business ownership is very important for the Black community. It's hard to compete and get legislative change when we don't have that buying power, so it's like, how politics work, it's all about the money. And sometimes these entities that are not in our favor have that financial push to get those decisions to go their way. So as community, we definitely have to continue to engage, get that educational literacy on finances, and we got to have Black ownership. And I told the whole committee, When we talk about reparations, it got to be ownership in there. I don't want to hear about co-ops. I don't want to hear about lease to own. I need my people to own something. We need to own our businesses so that we can have a place. I am tired of gentrification pushing us out of our community because of the economical impacts that we face when it comes to equity and inclusion. So definitely, I'm going to fight with you on that. So we definitely need to connect with that because I want to keep pushing this. But that the healthy food is definitely something we got to bring to our community. And it's all about education, starting young, letting these young kids know the importance of eating healthy and how it affects them. So powerful stuff. With that being said, is there anything else you want to say? Any other things you're involved with? Um, how can people connect with you? Because I think you are a powerful sister. I know we have a number of organizations in the community that are doing some of the work you do. And again, I'm agreeing with you. It's too much competition and not enough collaborations. We got to collaborate and we got to bring the services to the people. I am tired of getting these emails from the community that when people are getting killed in our community, when incidents are happening, there's no grief counselors. There's nobody going to talk to these mothers. We got to figure out a way how to work collaboratively and how do we work together to impact the community with the services? Because I'm telling you, I'm getting the emails and mental health is a problem, and especially in San Francisco and in the Bayview as well. And we got to get those services to our people. So looking forward to connecting with you. Whatever I could do to help you, Brittney, for our digital flyers, any events that you have, any way that we can support you here at both sides of the conversation, definitely we will be there. We will get the flyers and information out. But I definitely want to work with you. We got to rally. We got to get this health thing going because our people are getting impacted heavily. So, yeah. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
So you were a hidden gem tonight, but you're not so hidden now. Everybody know they're gonna be reaching out to you.
Everybody knows who I am now. Hit me up on Instagram. Come to one of my workshops.
All right. Well, thank you, Brittney. We're going to go ahead and get to our last hidden gem who's been waiting patiently, but we definitely will be connecting with you. Looking forward to doing some things with you in the future.
All right. Thank you for having me.
All right. All right. We go into our last hidden gem of the night. This sister right here is a powerful, powerful sister. The work that she is doing is very, very much needed in our communities. This work is another task that sometimes can be very stressful, and it's a lot. I just can't even go into all the emotions and things. You have to be a strong individual, I must say. So I know this queen is a very powerful queen because to do this work, you have to have patience. You have to have compassion, humility, and you have to have your awareness. You have to be looking and paying attention. She's doing a great work. So with that being said, we're going to bring up our sister, Vanessa Russell. She has developed children in the area of dance since 2000. She launched Love Never Fails, which is a nonprofit dedicated to restoration, education, and protection of those involved at risk of becoming involved in domestic violence and human trafficking. Love Never Fails have educated thousands of children and community members on issues of human trafficking, opened a home that provides long-term safe housing and restorative services for over 100 women survivors and their children, and launched an IT academy connecting underserved community members with financial sustainability careers. Vanessa believes that the issues of human trafficking can be solved through love expressed in prayer, safe housing, mentoring, job training, outreach, and education. And I agree with all them plus some. So with that being said, we're going to bring up our sister Vanessa to come on here and bless the community and talk about the things that she's doing to impact the community.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here with you tonight.
Thank you.
Yeah, so just to give you a little bit of a rundown, I've been doing this for about 10 years now. Again, started after I was working as a leader in the IT space, and then volunteering as a dance teacher in the Bay Area, in the East Bay, for several years, for almost 10 years. And in 2010, one of my 15-year-old dance students, unfortunately, was sexually assaulted in the East Bay and was sold throughout California for a year. And that's when I became aware of human trafficking and how horrible it is. And I found that it wasn't just something that was an anomaly that was happening to my one student, but it was happening all over the Bay Area, all over the state, and just really impacting Black and brown girls in particular, from the standpoint of being trafficked. And then, of course, many of our young men were being recruited to be mini pimps or mini traffickers in this game. And so we just immediately, my heart was broken. I went looking for my student and found that this was an epidemic. This wasn't just that anomaly, as I mentioned. We eventually were able to locate her and bring her to a place of safety. And I'm happy to say she is thriving. She, moved to another state, graduated from high school with honors, was adopted by one of our volunteers, and she's just doing wonderfully. But since then we have opened up. We now have 4 houses, 2 houses for women and children that are exiting the life, 1 house for girls ages 13 to 17, and 1 house for men that are particularly 18 and up, transitional age, and or men with their families. And we've housed 167 women, men, and children over the last 6 years. We've just started our housing about 4 years into our nonprofit. Also, as people started graduating from the housing program, especially in the Bay Area, we realized, they weren't doing well. They were going back to those unhealthy relationships, unhealthy family members. And so we said, one of the things about becoming free is you can't just give people a bed and say, oh, now you're free. You can't just give people a friendship and say, now you're free. You can't just tell them, I love you, I support you, pray for them, and now you're free. You got to give them economic freedom. And so we decided to, based on my background in IT and me personally having been raised in San Francisco in a lot of poverty myself, experiencing childhood abuse, foster care, and so on, and doing well for myself as a global senior sales leader at Cisco Systems and Wells Fargo and AT&T and a bunch of other high-tech companies, I said, you know what? We're going to become an IT academy. And so we started off as a Cisco networking academy. We are now a state certified cybersecurity pre-apprenticeship program and networking pre-apprenticeship program. We're a Department of Rehabilitation IT vendor rather, and a CalJobs provider as well on the ETPL. And the reason, which stands for eligible training provider, so list. So anyway, tech people and their acronyms, they're a trip. But anyway, so I wanted to make sure that the people had financial freedom as they were coming through our housing program. We also do mentoring. We have a community store. We do prevention education in the schools. We just recently did some education out at the Boys and Girls Club in Contra Costa County. We do street outreach. We get out there in the Tenderloin. We get out there and we meet with people. We feed them. We love on them. We tell them that we care about them. And for me, this thing of addressing the issue of human trafficking, I love what my last sister just talked about, Brittney, just that economic empowerment, and I started to think about, there's all, when you look at the markers and the experience of a Black girl, a Black boy in our community, or man or woman, or person, there's one common theme, and that is that we're living with generations of shame. We're living with generations of being told, be quiet, hush, don't talk about what your needs are, and also being told you're not that important. And because of that, these things are like not eating well. There's not a lot of conversation about it because there's so much shame about not eating well or about health issues. Let me just tuck it away. Maybe it'll go away. And gender-based violence is one of those areas. Let me just tuck it away and maybe it'll go away. But we need to start looking at gender-based violence like human trafficking, like domestic violence, and we need to see that it's a symptom of a deeper issue of not knowing our own worth and the value that we have as people, and placing that value on one another's lives and on one another's safety. You talked about it, John, at the beginning. 7 murders, 7 homicides in Oakland on Sunday. It was so sad to hear. I know personally 2 people that were impacted. And you go, well, why is that happening? Well, and how does it map into human trafficking? It maps because there's a lot of competition on, because there's a lot of crabs in the bucket trying to pull on some. Because if there was more wealth in these places, more economic sustainability, we wouldn't have to grab on each other and kill each other to make it. We would know that everybody is going to get fed. And so these are the kind of things that I'm trying to champion in our community, because I believe that in the stop trying to one up each other and stop trying to stop trying to outdo each other, or stop hiding when we're hurting, stop hiding when we have mental, more that we, then we're going to start to see a solution to things like human trafficking, which are oftentimes symptoms. It's a symptom of a deeper issue of poverty, of certain vulnerabilities, lack of education, lack of opportunity, lack of self-worth in our community that is so prevalent. There is a reason why 40% of all the people that are trafficked in the U.S. are Black women and girls. There's a reason why, even though we only represent, as a whole people, 13% of the nation. There's a reason why there's that disproportionality, and it has a lot to do with the vulnerability that we all are experiencing. So anyway, Love Never Fails is focused on bringing visibility to these things and bringing solutions forward, both in the way of racial equity, diversity, and inclusion training for employers, for churches, for organizations, in the way of IT training for our community. Right now, we have 70 students enrolled in our IT class, which has been funded by Microsoft, by Cisco, by organizations like Scale and HP. And so these high-tech companies are coming alongside us to help with this. And then the prevention education, getting into the schools, into the community centers, and talking about what does grooming look like as it relates to human trafficking? What are your own vulnerabilities that you need to be aware of so that you can mitigate some of these things? So you know the little words that are going to be coming to you. And then the other piece is parental education. When your child is on that phone and they're in those watch parties, and they're in the TikTok and the Instagram and the Clubhouse, what's going on in there? And and how is that platform being used to actually traffic people, especially during this time of the pandemic? Just the cyber trafficking of people has gone through the roof, because this is how people have been making ends meet. And so how do we get ahead of that? How do we use this time to get IT certifications? How do we use this time to become financially literate? How do we use this time to pull ahead where maybe in the past we were behind? And so this is what I'm doing. This is what I've dedicated my life to. And thank you so much for putting me on here, John. I could just go on and on. Like my sister said earlier, it could just be all day long talking about all the many, many things that we can be doing to basically say to one another, you're loved, you're important, you're valuable, you're smart, and you and us, we can go much, much further if we start working together as a community.
Definitely. That's why we have you on tonight. You're not a hidden gem. You're doing phenomenal, very important work. And I'm glad you was able to get in there. I know you're a very busy woman doing a lot of things to impact our community, but this is what the work really looks like for community out there. This information that you're giving out to the community is very, very important. I just want community to know it's an epidemic with human trafficking that she's talking about. This is happening all across our country. Our young girls are being snatched off the street in different ways, and it's not always just gorillas snatching off the street. It's other ways that this stuff is happening, impacting our community heavily. And I think you hit on a lot of great points. And that's why I say you're so powerful in what you're doing. And this work is a very important work. But I want to tap into you about the IT situation, because I think we know you're an innovator and we know you're a trailblazer. And what a way to come up with this idea about this IT Academy. I think it is just phenomenal, amazing that you have that thought process, because here in America, that is the number one industry that is going to be projected in the future. Right now, I just was watching the other day how the United States of America is being cyberly attacked every day, impacted. So you getting our young people equipped to go out and protect our communities, because like Brittney said earlier, there is a digital divide in our community. There is some disparities when it comes to this information technology and different things. Our community are behind the 8 ball. So what a way to have a powerful organization like what you are doing with the job training and the readiness for that type of industry. It is needed, especially for the parents, like you said, the TikToks, the Instagram, and, having young people, part of the social media where there's different people on there. And like you said, everybody's not on there to be so sociable. Sometimes it is predators and different people on there. And I heard a mother talk about that the other day. She's talking about how she picked up on it and some guy's trying to fly her daughter out. And you know what I mean? And that's how it happened, just that easy. And again, it takes the entire community to work together to make sure that these type of things are not happening, and then have the education. So we really appreciate you dropping those gems to the community. And I know we're going to have some further conversations with you in the future. And I know you'll be doing some educational presentation, but I think it's just phenomenal work that you're doing and dedicated to it. I mean, it's a problem in our community that needs to be addressed. We have to love. These are our young girls. These are our young community. And the education part is very, very important. And how do we connect? How do we get the elders of the community, young people, to work together? And how do we have this open dialogue and have these safe conversations to really talk about what's going on? Because in our community, you're right, a lot of things are happening. People are not talking because sometimes the way we were raised, sometimes this happened in the family, don't say nothing. Our kids afraid. And how do we get to that point where we can open up, have those conversations, and make sure that all of our young people are protected? So I think that's very powerful. But with the IT Academy, you said it's an apprenticeship. So is it a paid internship or is it how does that work?
Yeah, so it's so exciting. So let's say for the 70 students that we have this year, we have received grants from 4 different organizations that have sponsored most of the students. Some of them are still pending, but most of the students are sponsored to have a 40-hour paid internship with a high-tech company like a Google, like an HP, like a Cynac. So these are some of the organizations like Corporate E-Waste Solutions, right? So these organizations are going to host our students and provide them hands-on training. And so that's a phenomenal. And then as they complete our 35-week program, they will come away with 4 Cisco certifications and a CompTIA A+ certification. So 5 certifications, and they will qualify to apply for a paid apprenticeship program that is hosted through Merritt College and Wright Varsity is one combination. There's another combination with San Francisco City College. So we have MOUs and partnership agreements with both of these entities. And basically when they go through there, let's say at San Francisco City College, they actually can enter into their cybersecurity program and start a paid apprenticeship starting at $15 an hour and progressing through to $41 an hour over an 18-month period. What we need to understand to your earlier point is there is a 0% unemployment in cybersecurity. There are 1.8 million vacancies in this industry. So this is the industry that I am trying to get people to prepared for. And my belief is that the more of us, I grew up highly impoverished. Much of the money that I made, and when I retired from Cisco Systems 2 years ago, I was making $300,000 a year. I say that openly so that people understand. And when you're in the life and I get out there with the girls on the street, I'm like, I'm trying to help you make some real money, some money that you don't have to look over your shoulder wondering who's coming to hit you, who's coming to choke you out, who's coming to rape you. No, let's go and make some real money so you can live in your real house with your real Mercedes and drive to your real Bahamas trip when you decide you want to go. And that for me is what I'm really trying to get across the line with our young people, because this little bit, now let me just say, if you're an exploiter and you're doing whatever you're doing, you can make a lot of money tax free and clear. But you know what? I gotta say, I've spoken to many people that are out there selling, folks, and they hate themselves. They do not want to be doing that. They don't want to be hurting people, choking people out, raping people. They don't want to be involved in that. And they start off just as you just would never expect the stories of the young people that are getting ensnared and becoming exploiters. They don't want to do this. So let's show them a better way to make some money, clean money, some real money. And this is what I'm trying to help them. Some stats just really quick that is so compelling. If you look at the DePaul School of Law, they have a study they did of exploiters. 88% of exploiters, their mothers were abused as children. 65 to 95% of people who have been exploited were abused as children. So when we start covering up this abuse, when we cover up neglect, because when we're hungry or we don't have the proper clothing and things like that, those things make us susceptible to someone coming and running game on our kids. And so we got to start talking about this stuff, and we got to start, exposing it and coming up with some healing. First of all, we got to get healed, and we've got to come up with some alternative ways to make money in the IT industry. 25% of the IT industry are women. Only 3% are Black women. 3%. Okay, so we've got to open these doors up so that there's better diversity in this industry. And there's no reason that the door shouldn't be opened if we do the work and we come forward and say, hey, I want more than my fair share. I'm ready to sign up and do what needs to happen. So anyway, that's what's going on.
Wow, powerful stuff, Vanessa. I'm glad you put that out there. I didn't even know it was that many jobs. I knew that there was a high ask for individuals in that industry. Again, I've been watching some of the stuff, and they've been talking about how we have been getting attacked cyberly, and they are looking to get people in this field. But I think this is great that you're having this conversation, because the people that's watching out there, because we are driving our kids for college, and there's a lot of kids who are not going to college. And I'm a big advocate for vocational schools, right?
Yes.
Every kid is not going to go through the college steps, right? How do we empower them? And just to hear you say you could go from $20 to $300,000, our young parents out there should be excited and start driving our kids into this technology, right? And I think one of the biggest things the pandemic showed us was the job market is changing. Okay. Mm-hmm. The baby boomers are retiring. We have, as a community, have to start educating our young people. Where are the successful employment opportunities are in the careers that the computers can't really take away? You go to the banks now, there's hardly no tellers. You go to the grocery store, there's hardly no checkers. Amazon is using robots for everything. I mean, our job market is changing dramatically. So to get this information to the community, I think is phenomenal. Anybody out there watching, please reach out to Vanessa. Get into this IT program. I'm going to talk to some of the people at YCD. We got to start educating our kids. And I've been saying it. I've been telling them, we can't just talk about jobs. I'm on these calls. I'm in there with these different leaders. Everybody talking about, we just want to give kids jobs, but we're not talking about careers. We need sustainable employment for the community. And this sounds like this might be the area that we need to be really pushing our kids to in IT, because it is going to be long-standing, because as long as the cyber attacks and as long as the cybersecurity issues are going to continue to happen across this country and across the world, we need equipped young people. And it sounds like your program is the program to put them on that right path. So I definitely want to encourage all of the families and the mothers and fathers out there, community leaders, community organizations. Here's an opportunity. Let's get our young people in this technology. It's definitely much needed. I've been pushing automation. Everything is going digital, right? And then the other thing about financial literacy that Brittney talked about, there is a shift in America that's happening right now when we talk about currency. Okay, so this cryptocurrency and different things are changing right now, and we got to educate the elders of the community and our young people. And I think IT is going to be very important. We know over history in this country, the wealth have been stolen from the Black community from lack of information, right? Or things happen, Tulsa, Oklahoma, riot, right? But as we shift into this digital age of currency, we're going to need IT professionals, especially in our community, to protect our elders, because there will be people out there trying to do things to steal their wealth, steal their retirements, and different things of that nature. So we're going to need some young people to help protect the elders of the community and transition them. And I think as a community, we have to do a better job of educating our young people in the community about this currency change, because I think it is real and it's happening fast. Every day I'm going to stores, they're like, we don't have any more coins. They're steadily taking the coins out of circulation. Next, it'll be the dollars. They're trying to push everybody digitally. We still have people in the community paying bills with money orders and things of that nature. And that's going to change, right? How do we empower the community with this change? And I think you have the right tools there. And we're going to promote that. Please get us flyers and information about your program so that we can get it out to community. Looking forward to having you come back to have further in-depth conversation. You're going to get the time here. We're going to make sure you get your PowerPoint about this human trafficking, because we have to put an end to it. These young women out here are being impacted, and our young brothers, we got to talk to them. We're going to have a conversation about toxic masculinity and different things of that nature coming up. But I think this is an important conversation that we got to continue to have in our community. So I just appreciate you giving up some time tonight coming on. We're going to help promote Love Never Fails and all your programming that you're doing, because I want to get in there, and I'm glad to hear you had those connections with City College. I want to talk to some of the vocational people that we're working with about job readiness, and maybe even a success center, talking with Liz Jackson over there, getting that a part of their programming. I mean, we I see all these jobs, and it's still like, holding signs, cleaning the streets, janitorial stuff. And I just want to get our young people more advanced so that they can make the equitable wage. Living here in the Bay Area, it is expensive. And we need these type of industries that will pay well for our community, young people, and people of the community, so that they can be sustainable. So thank you very much for coming on, Vanessa. If there's anything else you want to say, go ahead. If you want to shout out anything or any people, shout out to your whole team. You guys are doing phenomenal work. I'm just impressed with the stuff that you're doing. And when I first met you with Majig, I was like, we have to have this. This information needs to go to the community. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to connecting with you and them and getting you back on so that we could really get in more in depth about what's really happening to our people in the community and how do we protect them and support them. So looking forward to that. With that being said, I'm going to go ahead and pull up the other two hidden gems. They're back, and we're just going to have a quick question that we're going to ask. I don't even know what the question is tonight, but I think we touched on so much that was important, that impact the community. Since we did come out of the Juneteenth weekend, I think my question tonight is, now that Juneteenth has been recognized nationally, the movement has kind of started, the education has begun about Juneteenth. I was very surprised how many people who really didn't understand what Juneteenth was. So that just goes to show how much more education we have to deal with. But now that Juneteenth is recognized, we're here now. We're talking about reparations. Where do you all think we need to go as Black community? How do we empower each other? and how do we go after some of the things, this equity that we're talking about, to make a change in our community. So anyone can start. What does this Juneteenth look like to you all?
Well, for one, I want to say I lived in Texas for a long time, so we celebrated Juneteenth. It's always been a holiday in Texas. But I did want to say, around this discussion around reparations, I think it's an amazing discussion. I want to commend Supervisor Shaman Walton on starting the charge on bringing this effort to the city. But I do want to make sure that, our communities are prepared. Like, so if we do get the money, I want to make sure that the people that we work with are financially, set to be able to manage the money that we get. And so I haven't really heard that conversation yet. So I know we've been going through the process of, getting to the bag, but once we get the bag, I just want to make sure that, that conversation starts about what does that, financial education, what are we going to do with the money when we get it? We want to make sure that people that have never had money don't squander money, just assuming that we get a nice amount of money. But, we do want to make sure that we bring those educational tools to the community beforehand.
Definitely. We want you to tune in and drop your comments in the chat this week. I mean, that's one of the things that I'm definitely honing in. That's why I said I know this conversation is going to go. It's going to be a big one, but it's very important what you said. I think we have to attach something to this reparation when it comes to like financial literacy and things of that nature. I'm at this point where right now I'm done with worried about how people spend their money, because I hear all of this stuff like all these people going to be going and buying beer and rims, and at this point reparation is reparation. But I do agree with you that there's an educational component that needs to happen with it. I think there's a mental health component that needs to happen with it. I think there's an educational and tax component that also needs to happen that I'll be bringing up this weekend, because I'm going to challenge them. And I know a couple of the people that's on the reparation committee is supposed to be on this call, and I'm going to challenge them because I think that we have to have a real conversation. And we also, like you said, Brittney, we have to educate the community. Okay. When we're talking about reparations, I keep telling the community, you have to understand when they give you something, they're going to take something. So that means there's a possibility if reparations are paid across this country, they're going to probably take away the subsidies, Section 8, food, things of that nature. We got to think about this because that's just how it is in America. They're not going to give nothing without taking something back. And again, what you said is very powerful. We have to enrich our community, and we got to figure out a way to make sure that the education and that stuff happens, because once they give us reparations, believe me, they're going to take away a lot of those government assistance, child care, things of that nature. They're going to take it away and say, hey, y'all got y'all money. Y'all got to figure it out. So we got to be ready for that, Will. It is a double-edged sword. But whoever else want to go ahead and jump in there, go ahead.
Yeah, I think that there's a huge management component to this that, it's a psychological, there's all kinds of the psychology of this that, like, to your point, that we haven't really considered, or we haven't really, it's going to take some deep thought and some planning. It cannot just be done overnight. We didn't get here overnight, and we're not going to repair this overnight. Me personally, I feel like we should be investing heavily in, and I don't know if that's setting up trust accounts for young people, but I'll just give an example. My daughter's grandmother, she let me know that she had put some money aside so that when my daughter gets to college age, she's got her college paid for. And you'd be surprised what that is doing to the psychology of a 13-year-old, to say somebody thought about me and put money aside so that I can go to school, and and so that I can, and if I decide to go to a trade school, I can purchase property. Things like that you can use as tools to inspire young people to want more for themselves and do more for themselves. And I'm not saying you don't go back to the people, the older people, and also, support them in some of the things that they want to achieve. Like I saw one of my sisters here in the comments asked about, can I get into IT even though I'm a DV survivor? And, and I'm 30. Yes, ma'am. Yes, you can. And half of our class is in that category, just so you know. But the point is, let's allow people to fulfill dreams that they never thought were accessible to them. And I think that that's a key to managing this. It's like, what do you want to achieve with this? Find out what people want to do and make it happen.
Wow, yeah, powerful stuff. And I want to give a big shout out to Jamie and Kadari. They from Houston, Texas, watching us. So all y'all that's talking about, we just talk about San Francisco. Here's two phenomenal women in Houston supporting us. They came on our show. Jamie is a powerful sister. She did our domestic violence conversation. She's an activist for domestic violence. So I know that's why she's putting that information in there. And definitely I'll connect you with her, even though she's in Houston. She's doing some phenomenal work down there with the domestic violence survivors and getting her story out there and empowering the women in the community. So I definitely want to connect you all as well. And then Ms. Freeman, go ahead. What do you think about these reparation talks?
I personally think that the community definitely needs to be at the table. Okay, we're talking about giving out repartations, but what does that look like? Like someone was just saying, we don't just need to give it to them. We need to have a plan of when we give these repartations that they won't squander their money, so that they can set up their children, because their children can take on that debt for going to school, just like some of us have taken out student loans. We didn't get, federal aid, so we want to make sure that those children have access to that. We want to make sure that those individuals that weren't able to have access to a home, that they're able to now actually have that ability to have that access. So I think we just need to be at the table, just like you're doing. We need to make sure that whatever they're wanting to give us as far as our partations goes, that we have a voice on how that should look. Because as we know, when the government has an idea of what they want to give to the people, sometimes it does not resonate with the people. So the people need to be at the table.
Definitely, most for real. I mean, and that's what we're trying to do. And I know this reparations is going to look different across the country. I know as different states are starting to get behind doing it. I think here in the Bay Area, it's going to look way different just because the cost of living and how things are impacted here in the Bay Area. But I think across the country, it'll be a good baseline. Typically, a lot of the people in the East and the South follow what the California model, or they make their adjustments. So I'm hoping that one, like Brittney said, Shaman them get this right. I've already did a lot of research on it, and Shaman, we've been arguing back and forth. And I told him here in the Bay Area, because we can't give 40 acres and a mule here in the Bay Area. We need $2.5 million as a cash payout, but we also going to need the tax incentives. I think we should eliminate the payroll taxes part of reparations, because how do we build equity in our Black businesses? And that'll be one way to close that gap, by not having to pay payroll taxes or just taxes in general. That should be definitely one area that we need to look at, because the taxes would really stop a lot of our Black businesses from thriving, especially when you're just getting off the ground. And then for our education, there's a big part of education that needs to happen in these reparations. I mean, we don't have enough Black teachers in our community. One, because in some of our communities, the cost of living is just out of the roof, right? So how do we impact our Black teachers to make sure that they can live in the communities that they work in, and they also get the livable salary that also can impact them? And then I think there's a mental health component, because our people have been through so much violence and trauma in our communities. Mental health has to be a part of it when we're talking about the overall health, because our community has been impacted when it comes to healthcare. The cost of healthcare is just out of the roof. And we got to make sure that part of reparations, we get some kind of mental health and health part of the reparation conversation. I think that's a big component. So those three are like my big threes that I want to push for. Definitely the education, the mental health, the tax breaks, and then the cash payments, so that people can pay off their student loans. They can have access to starting up a business and being able to leave that legacy to their young children, to the family, because that's all we really have. I mean, I was reading this article yesterday talking about Tulsa, the Black Wall Street in Tulsa, Oklahoma. They predicting it's about $3 trillion over the time that was taken from the Black community. That was just in Tulsa, Oklahoma. We're not even going to talk about the whole country, right? And you look at the easiest way to figure it out is, and I was talking to somebody, one, we got to make sure that the Native American Blacks are taken care of on this. And I got to stress that hard. And a lot of people are saying, oh, why this? We have to make sure the American, Native, Black, descendants of slaves get taken care of, because this was our ancestors. on this country's soil who has been impacted. A lot of reparations that has happened in different parts of Africa, different other countries, Japan, different ways, but the American blacks have never received those reparations. And I want to make sure that the natives here get that opportunity this time around when we're advocating for reparations. It's going to be a lot of work. I know we're years away from getting it. I think Juneteenth was a start of the country recognizing some of their wrongs. And it starts with little steps. And hopefully it gets into bigger steps where we can really have real dialogue. But there's a lot of work not done. And I need our community to know we're going to have to keep fighting, keep pushing, and not laying down, because you look across the country right now, we got this voter suppression that's happening. These Jim Crow laws is sneaking back in. We got work to do, community. We can't just stop now and just say, hey, Juneteenth is a holiday, we got a day off. We got some work to do, because our people in the South are being impacted when it comes to the voting rights. And some of the things that our ancestors have fought for, they are steady taking them away right before our eyes. So I'm looking for some more of those Civic 101 people to come on and teach our community, get our young people engaged with the voting process, understanding some of these bills. We got to start getting engaged. We can't just sit back. So there's a lot of things we got to work on. But I think this Sunday's conversation, we should get a lot out of it. And I hope some of the people from the city will be watching. I know Shaman said he'll be checking out. We'll get some of our elected officials checking out this conversation. I think it's a good starter to hear what the people need and what we want. And definitely, we got to lead this generational wealth so that our young people coming behind us don't get impacted the way they have. This wealth gap in America is just too much, and our communities are being impacted. So real talk. Anything else from anybody before we end? Thank you, ladies, for being patient, hanging in. I know it's getting late, but did anybody have anything about reparations or anything they wanted to talk about before we get off?
I wanted to know how much are you expecting? What do you think is fair?
So I did the research. It's about 2.5.
For you personally, how much what amount of check what do you want written on the check that you receive?
Oh, $2.5 million.
2.5 million. Okay.
I think that's fair. I mean, if you look at the national debt, where we at, because you have to take in consideration if our people built this country up, right? You look at the national debt right now, it's about $30 trillion. Okay. If you took 3/4 of that debt to start the country, our people should be taken care of. And that's a low number. I mean, I heard Bob Johnson putting out each family should get $300,000. That's just unrealistic, especially here in the Bay Area. I mean, but different parts of the country, I know those numbers are going to change. I mean, if you live in Mississippi, they're going to say 2.5. Y'all crazy, right? Because the cost of living is cheaper. So I think the number is going to have to adjust by the sector, but it still should equate to the 40 acres and a mule. And we have to go after the medium house rate, right? We live in San Francisco. We have to be honest. We in the Bay Area, okay? The medium house is 1.5 million. If you're saying you're sorry and we want to pay you for the 40 acres and a mule that we're supposed to give you, we have to, equate it to what today really is, right? So the average medium home is about 1.5 in California. That's the start, right? That's saying, okay, here's that 40 acres that we're going to give you. We're not going to ride around in no mules, but we need to be able to impact our families with taking care of these college debts, starting a business, right? That's that other part. So you get about 2.5 million when you start looking at that, and how do you build a legacy for your family? And that's very, very power with the financial part for us here in the Bay Area. But in Mississippi, that number might be $500,000, right? Because you could probably buy, a house and 40 acres for $100,000, but you still have to give them the opportunity to pay off debt, start a business, be able to be financially sustainable. So it might be $500,000, maybe it's $1 million. I don't really know for each, part of this country, but definitely here in the Bay Area. I'm going after all of the California legislators. When we start really having the full conversation, they're going to have to really go after that median price, because we want home ownership. Reparation does us no good if none of our people get home ownership. We have been displaced. You look at the homeless population in San Francisco. We have 5% of African Americans in San Francisco as a population, but we have 53% homeless. That's a problem. So we got to address it. And those reparations is where it starts. It's going to take a lot of work. It's going to be a fight. But again, we have to remember both sides of this, both sides of the conversation. When they give us this, we got to be ready as a community. And how do we hold the stakeholders and some of the people that's going to have those opportunities like Brittney talked about, educating the community? Because once you get those reparations, there's going to be some kind of pushback, kickback attached to it. And we just have to be real. Nobody's giving up nothing without something back. And it might go with taking away Medicare, or it might go away with taking child care, Section 8.
We won't qualify. We won't qualify for none of that.
Right.
None of that. Let's go.
Let's go be
It's a
some
new way of living.
Right. So we have to do it. But I think, the mental health, the drug abuse, we're going to have some real education part of this monetization. And I don't know if it's one check at one time, over time. That's what this conversation this Sunday, I'm hoping, get into. What does that look like? I don't just think giving a person a $2.5 million check, saying, here you go, is the answer. But I also think there has to be some kind of educational component to those areas that we talked about: mental health, financial literacy, substance abuse. We're going to have to really have a real a conversation about how does that look and how does it get paid over time, so that people are not just getting, most people are not going to be financially responsible to handle that type of money or that type of funding at one time. But how do we make it over the long haul where it's incentive based as well? Because again, you're talking about losing benefits that some people might give. What about that single parent who is dependent on Section 8 or child care services? If they don't have and they're not equipped with the right education, how to support, that's going to impact our community as well. So it's a lot of talking that's got to happen. These conversations are going to continue. I'm just happy that we're going to have the first kickoff this Sunday. I think it's going to be powerful. I just think it's going to be powerful, but I hope you all get to tune in. People that's out putting things in the chat, hope you all get to go in the live chat and this is a think tank. Right now, we're building this conversation to really impact the country. Whatever it is here in San Francisco, whatever it is, we push everything out east. So I think if we get it right, or we get the model that may be a model that worked, maybe the rest of the country will follow. That's the hope. But again, there's a lot of talk and a lot of work that's got to happen. But just looking at the mayor's budget, it wouldn't be a problem. They got, $13 to $20 billion going to the city fund to do San Francisco. It wouldn't be hard. A lot of these organizations in the city are not doing their fair part of taking care of the Black community. So I don't want to hear the excuses of we don't have the money. Here in San Francisco, you look at the budget, you look at the waste, you look at a lot of the things that's happening when you talk about budgets. You look at some of these departments, some of our large departments, DPH, they're not doing a lot for the Black community. There's a lot of departments in the city that are not impacting our community like needs be. So I'm definitely in favor of reparation, taking some of that money from some of those departments and putting it into the pot for reparations for our community. So that's all I'm gonna say. I'm gonna shut up. But that's what we got to do. I get going. I'm like y'all. I
can tell you're so passionate about this and so well informed.
I've been doing a lot. Hey, Brittney, I've been doing my homework about these reparations.
Really?
I be trying to look up my history because I'm tired of these people putting these fake people on here.
No, I feel you.
Trying to sell our people something.
We got to be well informed. We have to be well informed about this. So yeah, I feel you. Teach me, because I'm like,
you put me up on something. I did not know half of what you talking about.
So because I understand how they work, and they try to play these games. They put these little committees together, and a lot of times, and be honest, there are a lot of yes people on these committees. Okay, and they don't understand, and a lot of times they don't do all the research. But I know we got a good brother, Rico Hamilton, on the committee. He know where I stand on this. Me and him have many conversations about what reparations look like. There's a few other people, and I'm just hoping that now that our community is really being educated about the Black Wall Street in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and I hope community out there really understands the financial impact that took on the Black community. When you're talking about wealth and passing wealth generationally, you guys got to really understand that's $3 trillion. You look at $3 trillion with the percentage of Black people that we have in this country right now. $3 trillion could do a lot to impact the Black community. And that was just Tulsa, Oklahoma. What about Texas? What about South Carolina, Black Wall Street? What about here in the Bay Area? There was a lot of wealth and ownership that was lost and stolen because of poor education. And that's why, Brittney, what you said, Vanessa, the education component when it comes to financial literacy, we have to push. We have to get this back in our schools. They're talking about Saturday schools and things right now, and I'm big on making sure, one, we're going to teach history. 2, we're going to teach financial literacy. 3, we're going to talk about mental health. And 4, we're talking about mentorship, because I think mentorship is a big part of the success in our Black and brown community. A lot of things done with mentorship, and I don't think a lot of praise get put on mentorship, but I think mentorship is big. But those are the 4 things that I'm looking at these Saturday schools. I know there's a lot of RFQs and funding going to this Saturday school, whatever they want to call it, cultural school. They got all these different names. But all I want to say is we need a space for our young Black and brown kids to learn their history, get mental health, financial literacy, and mentorship. I think that's what it's going to look like. So, I'm all down for it. It's both sides of the conversation. This Sunday, I guarantee you, community, it's going to be a powwow conversation. But we got some radically left. We got some radically right. And, I'm in the middle with it, but I'm going to keep the fire in the pot. I keep the gas on them. So with that being said, if anybody want to say any final words before we close out tonight's show, I want to let you guys get to your families. And God bless you all for the work that you do. No one understands the importance of how this work impacts the community. Brittney, I see you in the community. I know the impact you're having. Ms. Freeman, I'm not in Mississippi, but I understand the impact, the work that you do, how important it is. And there's a lot of people in the community that don't understand some of the challenges and the obstacles when helping people re-entry back into our communities is very important. So just want to thank you again for the work that you're doing. Ms. Vanessa, you already know, beautiful, beautiful work that you're doing to help our young people. Very, very important topic that you're doing. Keep doing the work. Don't quit. Keep fighting. We will get there at some point. And I think this education thing, we're just going to continue to happen. And we just got to do it. And I appreciate you, Vanessa, for always calling people out, making the, these issues very important and on everybody's radar. We have too many poverty pimps in our community. I am tired of them. I'm going to continue to advocate and fight with community to get these poverty pimps out of our community, because there are resources that are needed, and we don't need people just putting the money in their pocket, walking away and leaving our people astray. And a lot of times that happens in our community. So just a blessing to have you doing the work, protecting our young people, protecting our families, and making that awareness. And people don't understand the work that Vanessa is doing. That awareness component, the education and awareness needs to happen not only in the community, in our schools, in our families. And I know a lot of time our backgrounds, the way we are raised, we don't like to talk about these conversations because they're uncomfortable. But here at both sides of the conversation, we will continue to have the difficult taboo conversation, the stigma conversations. We will keep it real. We are not the church. So a lot of times these conversations will get colorful. They will get passionate. They will get a little intense, but we will keep it real for our people. And we not go, stray on that. And this council culture, I am against it. And I'm glad you brought that up, Vanessa. I'm sick of the council culture. We have fought too long to speak up. So to have this council culture impacting our community, I'm against it. We need our voices to be heard. We need our women voices to be heard, because this work is going to continue. And it starts with people speaking up and being honest and being truthful to make change. So with that being said, thank you all. Brittney, did you want to say something? Because I see your mic went off before I close out.
No, that's it. I'm done. I'm done for the evening. Thank you for having me. Nice to meet you, Vanessa and Cynetra.
All right. And definitely, if y'all want to hang on a second, we can connect everybody's information as we close this out. So community, thank you. Powerful show. You see these hidden gems here. Phenomenal women in the community doing things. Let's get behind them and support them. I know these organizations are very, very impactful. Let's get behind them and support them. Thank you all for tuning in this Thursday. Don't forget, we're going to have a phenomenal sister come on, educate the community about insurance and the different insurance that we need to have to protect ourselves, because a lot of our wealth that we're talking about in here are lost from people being hurt in car accidents, lose their job. So insurance is very important. So I'm glad that she's coming on to educate our community how important it is to have insurance, life insurance. As you heard Vanessa said, it was a deadly weekend in the Bay Area. I'm tired of seeing our families after someone's murdered or lost. We're out here advocating with GoFundMe's and food raisers. We got to stop it, community. We got to make sure that we have the right insurances to protect. We never know when our time is going to come, but we want to make sure that we have the right insurance so that our community and our families don't lose that generational wealth. One incident of a death in a family could take a whole family 20 years to recover with the cost of funerals and different things of that nature. And a lot of times our grandparents, the elders of the community, are hit with that cost. So we want to make sure that we get community the right insurance protections and things of that nature. So this Thursday, our sister will be coming on to bless the community. And then this Sunday, as you all heard, we will be having this conversation about reparations, a real talk conversation with the community and some of the people that are behind this reparation committee. So it should be a phenomenal conversation. And then next Tuesday, we'll have another segment like this. It'll be some more hidden gems talking about the things that they're doing. So looking forward to that as well. With that being said, we're going to end tonight's segment. Peace, love, and happiness. Have compassion, have humility. Young people, be patient. Put the guns down. Love each other. Like the sister Vanessa said, we just need more love in our community so that we can curb this violence. And we will see you all this Thursday. Have a blessed evening, everyone.